That deck's tier 0. Rongo is the most ridiculous card that's ever been printed in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! That card says you cannot play and you cannot out me. Like, what are you gonna do? It has just insane. It has insane going second potential because of Zeus and all the PK cards just recurring themselves. I've never seen something more ignorant. Like,
I just want to let you know that I don't know if you were here in the call, but the other night Karan literally lost to Blue Eyes with this deck. So I don't know what the fuck you're saying. But
No, so
Karan's just not it.
you just
Sure.
Yo, Ego Dre, but you can call me Dre. And today, here we are with actually the stream fam today. The people on stream and all the people in the court. I got Vonnie, I got Eder, and I got my man's Nick. Just here, basically putting up together a tier list for you guys, just so you guys can check out what we think personally are the best decks during Season 2, and what we think personally climbing up the ladder that we've seen the most, that probably would give you the most challenge, and probably the best things that you can use your gems on to build things, even as well. If you guys like the video, like it. If you guys like my channel, subscribe to it. Make sure you guys check me out on my stream as well, too. I stream every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning, and sometimes surprisingly at night, I guess. It's on some nights after tournaments and stuff. On twitch.tv/ego_Dre. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. So, first things first, I just want to start off saying... these things are in no particular order at the current moment, so we'll just start off from the bottom. We have an S tier, we have an A tier, and we have a B tier, and then we also have a rogue tier, right? So mostly for the rogue tier, it's just going to be things that we don't think are really meta, because there's a couple things on here that we don't think is really meta, so we can just start off with DDD. I don't think this is in any way shape or form like meta, right? This is definitely just a rogue
Yeah, that's rogue for sure.
contender. There's not too much to say about it.
I think DDD,
The deck loses the maxi hard.
It's like one of those decks that's like really close to being meta, right? Because it toes the line all the time between being broken and being trash, and that's probably where it's at right now because of all the broken hand traps that are still in the game. But DD didn't really get a buff.
Yeah,
they're missing stuff. Like, they just got support in the actual TCG, which makes it really strong, but it just doesn't have that in Master Duel right now. I just think it doesn't have enough to not be able to brick, and even when it doesn't brick and goes interrupted, I feel like it still probably doesn't do enough.
Exactly.
it's not playing through back row either.
I think that deck
loses
loses that lich. Yeah.
It doesn't have a legitimate way to play through back row.
Yeah.
There's a lot of back row in Master Duel at the moment. I think Plat 1 is filled with Eldritch.
Yeah.
And
rogue decks in general are just going to run into that multiple times, right? Like, there's just so many rogue decks that are just going to run into the issue of playing into top tier hand traps, or running into the issue of, I'm playing against top tier trap cards, you know what I mean? And so many rogue decks are going to end up running into that, especially when they have Build-A-Bear combos like this deck does. So
yeah, it's like really dependent on scales to be able to generate unfair advantage through stuff. But if your Gilgamesh gets stopped, or you just don't have your scales available to you, then your deck doesn't really have a whole lot of ability to create advantage turn by turn.
Yeah, so rogue decks Master Duel have a blind second stand chance and plat. Yeah, basically. Okay, cool. So Spiral, onto the Spiral matchup. I feel like Nick knows a little bit more about this than I would. I don't know how viable Spiral is right now in, even though it has all the power stuff in it, like Master Plan as well too, but I haven't had a chance to actually practice it.
So if Spiral had... Well, it's not what Spiral has. Spiral actually just has everything that it could be to be at full power, and I think when it goes off, it can go off really hard. But the problem is that it just loses a little too hard to maxi, and it doesn't have a good stopping point in its combo like other decks like Dragon Link, where if you're comboing, you don't have a good place to stop without ending on just nothing, or having to give your opponent too many cards to end on anything. Like Appaloosa requires too many summons. So
Right.
I feel like when it goes uninterrupted, the deck can just be ridiculously strong and set up an unbreakable broken board. Like Sleeper is just an insane card in general on its own, but I feel like it's still just not resilient enough, and I don't think Called By or Ash for the Maxi is just enough for that deck, unfortunately.
Yeah, believe it or not, I feel like it got power crept.
It did get power
Yeah.
crept, I think, but also I think the build with Lunalight could be really strong still. So I think that version of the deck would be a little bit higher, but it still runs into the exact same maxi problems. So I think it's probably B tier at best, but it's probably still rogue.
I feel like at the top of that format, like just things like Spiral and Lunalight and things from that format back in the era, I feel like it just barely got power crept enough to be able to warrant it to not be the better decks right now. Like, there's just easier, better decks to play, is what it is.
Yeah,
it takes a lot of effort to get full combos out of these boards just for them to lose to Nibiru anyways. You know what I mean? or lose to
Yeah.
Maxi anyways. Like it doesn't
It's
feel
re-
right at the
It's
same.
really close.
Spyro always has that issue where it just bricks too. I think Spyro's always been a bricky deck, and it kind of always will be.
Yeah, most of the engine cards are there, but I think the big problem is obviously quick fix to one. But all of the regular spiral cards don't actually do anything by themselves. Like you need cards in multiples to be able to get to your double helix, to get to your blocker, and to send a spell or trap to be able to keep playing. So, and also obviously, like if you don't draw souls or a way to master plan, then your deck's a little too fair.
Yeah, that's what it is. Not enough broken, unfair stuff. So cool. All right, on to the next one. Emancipator. I know Eder has a lot to say about this deck. Dude, this deck can do a lot, bro. This deck can do a lot, especially with Block Dragon out. So where are we putting this one?
I
think A tier.
personally no, I think it's the best deck, and I'll tell you why. If you look at Drytron as the best deck, Drytron's ending on recursion plus the ritual that's just negating 8 times the turn. The problem is you lose really hard to Droplet, right? And that's like the number one card in this format. It's Maxi and Droplet. What can you do to Maxi and Droplet? And you just lose, right? Like a lot of decks are Dropletting the Drytron and they're killing you. Like that's how you're losing most of your games when you're losing. If your combo resolves, your chance of losing is really low. But if you get Dropleted, now it's rough. Adaman, I think, is different in the sense that if you get Maxied, you can pass and die, or you can play through it. And I think the end board is just unfair. I think Union Carrier equipping Buster to Savage is not fair. You can play around Storm, put it in defense, it's boosted. You only lose to like Cosmic Storm or Cosmic Droplet because the removal, like you can't. Okay, you stop the Savage, you stop the negates, you clear the like Raptide or Dragite, whatever you end on, but you're still losing to the Buster Dragon. Like you're still just locked, and it's not even like you can't ruler that board. You lost.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
if
go for it, Bunny.
I was gonna say if Drytron, even if Drytron gets like rulered or dark rulered, they still have evil orange light, so like stops them from getting killed like half the time. And like it's enough. Like just imagine like going full combo and ending with like orange light and even hand. And that's like 3 monster effect negates. So like if they're trying to kill you through that, it's
Yeah.
gonna be kind of hard. Because with droplets they have to send cards.
Yeah, without this becoming too much of a debate between what's better at Emancipator or Drytron, like Drytron definitely, at least if the combo is done right going first, like it ends with negates in its hand. That's how it plays around Droplet. It's the best way for it to play around Droplet is to end still with negates and still have follow up and recursion in your hand afterwards. So I just don't see Emancipator doing that. Is my biggest issue.
Yeah,
with
that's
it.
why I think it's
Buster,
A tier.
don't get me
It's a
wrong,
crack.
Buster Lock is broken. Like that's super good, which is why it's definitely up there. But I think it's low S tier. I don't think it's like top of S tier.
So my normal end board is Apollo, Savage with the Buster, IP, and a Block Dragon. So the first thing happening is I'm IPing and I'm chain blocking with Block Dragon. Actually, you can't chain block it in this game, but
You can.
Probably,
the
I
last
think,
time I did IP, it didn't let me chain block it.
You gotta change the settings. I don't know if you changed the settings before, but
yeah, I don't know. I
Oh,
think
that might be
Adamant's
it.
probably
That's like
the
the shiz settings, bro, with multi
Adamant's probably the second best combo deck, I think, because the thing with that deck is the reason why Black Dragon is so broken, aside from just being a not hard once per turn Dragon Ruler, is like the fact that if your Black Dragon goes off, you're getting literally all to your hand for the next turn. So you're always having follow up one way or another, and you're actually just plus sixing off of that. So if you go first and you don't get maxied, you're ending on a ridiculous board 90% of the time. You're ending with a million follow up, so your opponent literally has to find a way to either droplet your board and kill you, or otherwise they're just instantly losing the game next turn.
Yeah.
So I think that there's just small situations where you lose to like only having one Batman, like having one of the tuners and just getting it stopped. But it's kind of like the prank kids thing, right? You get one of your cards hashed, sometimes you just won't be able to play. But your turn one going uninterrupted is just the most ignorant thing.
It's like super ignorant. I think going second to what a lot of people don't understand, and why I think it's a little bit better than the Drytron deck is, if you have enough gas where you don't need to get away, you don't need to resolve the Block Dragon to play. It actually Block Dragon will protect rocks. So
Right.
as long as you start playing with Dragite, Raptite, bouncing cards, right? Like just breaking the board and you're like bouncing 2, you reveal 3, you're bouncing 3. Actually, I think it's up to 2, but you bounce 2, that's not losing to like a conch. It's not losing to like ogre or anything because block dragon's still on field and it's just protecting rocks.
Right.
Crack.
My biggest thing with the Emancipator combo, as it is like genuinely, is when you start off the combo, if you hit into a guardian, like that combo's going, you know what I mean? Like that's pretty broken. I think like protection against hand traps is really, really important, and I think it makes it really, really good against Emancipator or with Emancipator. I'm just a little more afraid of like when you don't have that protection, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the times, like you don't have the protection against hand traps, and we're sitting in a hand trap format. Like the fact that it loses a little harder compared to other decks, like when it comes to putting out its combo off, is the only thing that turns me off to it. But I think we're all kind of in a consensus that it's definitely at least S tier, right?
Yeah, it's
It's
cracked
like
for
low
sure.
low S high A, like for sure, like at least
I
S tier.
think nobody knows really how to play against Drytron in this game too. People just let it hand trap it wrong, and you're like playing so free.
For sure.
Drytron just gets to play.
Yeah, I guess the tier list should probably be more focused on how good it is, not how like generally the lower skill level master duel is, right? It's just like the power of the decks and not like whether people know how to play against them.
Yeah, that's true too. Also, price is something to consider as well too, because
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people being able to play the deck is definitely a factor, like for sure, at least right now. Since it's still a little bit earlier, I guess, but a lot of people still have their decks either way. So, okay. Well, moving on to Salaman. Great. I think this deck is way too fair. I think it's for sure like B tier. I don't think
B
it's
for
rogue.
sure.
Yeah, I think this deck's
B.
very
I
fair.
don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't think it's
I
broken.
don't know if you guys saw Asian Eye's video, but I saw the #1 salad ranked player get absolutely bodied by Asian Eyes, and it was at that point that I knew the deck was too fair. Shout out to Brian because he got bodied.
He played against Asian Eyes.
Yeah, and it's a video. It's a whole clip. Like he just gets bodied.
That's actually sad.
And that's when I knew the deck was just too fair. Like,
Yeah.
The thing with Salad, aside from like #1, it's so reliant on its normal summon.
That's true.
So when it's going second, it's so hard for that deck to be able to actually get something through. But
Yeah.
in addition to that, it's just drawing more extenders doesn't really make your board more broken. Is the problem. Like you're gonna end like pretty much if you have the Parallaxy, then you can end on like Sunlight Wolf with a Salad Monster set with a Bagus, and that's like as good as your board's ever gonna get most of the time.
Yeah, and a lot of
So-
people are maining Lightning Storm, like for sure.
And even that board's like it's breakable, but I think the one strength that Salad has going for it is that it gets the combo in so many different ways. So even if it draws just one starter, it can still do pretty much all of that, and it can play a bunch of hand traps.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that might be the argument to push it into low A. But I think the fact that it's just way too weak going second is just going to keep it B tier at best.
Yeah,
Definitely.
especially in going first format. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
That's strong enough.
loses to like a lot of hand traps too. Yeah.
Yeah, Lucid Nibiru loses to like every hand trap in the world. Like, yeah, there's too many ways the deck can lose. But it's still a solid deck. You know, it's still solid. It can still do stuff in the future. Like if you're playing against a deck and your deck bricks, right, and you're playing Salad, like you're not gonna make it fun for them. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's enough to put it in Rogue or anything like that. I still think it's a good deck. So
Yeah.
cool. Next deck we're gonna do is Striker. What do you think about Striker? I want to give my first thoughts on this real quick with Striker at least. I think the deck is cheap. And I think the deck being cheap definitely puts it up as well too. But I don't think it's the worst deck. I think it's pretty good. Double engage. Just Kagari being at 1 is kind of ass. But other than that, I don't think it's the worst deck. I think it's at least A tier.
A tier for sure.
What do you
it's the first deck I played in Master Duel when the game came out. So season 1.
Super cheap.
Yeah, pretty cheap.
Game comes out at like 1 a.m. By like 10, 11 a.m. I was plat. It's the first deck I played. I don't know if you guys played in Striker when Kagari was at 1 and we had 1 engage. It just means you have to play unnecessary cards. I think you have to play like Herc base. And there's instances where like you would want another CAG because sometimes your CAG just has to get back to like it just has to add back the Herc base. And then there are times where like you're like shuffling back engage to end phase Shizuku it.
Right.
Which is just like not you never really get to just pop off. Like you can pop off once. You get 2 engages, you resolve 2, 3 engages.
Yeah.
If you're greedy and you're ending on double engage, you're resolving 3 engages the next turn. But you're not winning that turn.
Yo,
Because
it's correct.
once that gas runs out, you're out. You
Yeah.
don't have anything left.
The fact that it doesn't end the game fast enough is my biggest issue with the deck. It's literally my biggest issue with the deck.
It has
is
to
does
play
not
the
end
needle
the game
fiber
fast enough.
combo.
Yeah, there's just so many times where like you're just playing striker and it takes so long for climbing the ladder. Like it takes so much longer than it needs to. Like,
yeah,
honestly.
it does. I
Right?
think like your average game is going like 4, 5, 6 turns. It's definitely not quick. Like, I think I played it going second, which is just awful in this game, but Max C makes it fair.
Right.
But if you're going first, like I just feel like you're getting blown out. It's not like there's no way you're not opening up insane, and that's like that has to be the only way you're winning going first.
Right.
A striker is the most technical by far out of all the decks on this list, and so because of that, it makes the deck lower on the tier list, in my opinion. But I do think it's really cheap to start off with, but I think playing it optimally requires a lot of ultra rares because in theory you're going to want cards like Upstart Goblin and a lot of hand traps, so it ends up getting
That's
more
true.
expensive later.
Mhm.
But I do think when it's piloted perfectly or almost perfectly, it's really, really strong because it's pretty much the only deck in the whole Master Duel format, except for maybe Zodiac, that can comfortably go second. And being able to just constantly gain advantage through the fact that your cards just do that from having 3 spells engraved and pretty much winning all of the like if it's control versus control, like if it's playing against a backer deck, you're probably gonna win that game.
Yeah.
Just because of the fact that all of your cards are +1 after a certain point in the game. So I think if it lives long enough and gets to the point where it can stabilize, it's never losing. But getting to that point just becomes harder and harder, especially if you're choosing to go second, because you're choosing to go second against just complete gas, as you can probably see from the rest of the cards on this list.
Right. Complete gas, honestly.
But I would definitely agree that it belongs in A tier. Though. So
It doesn't lose to Maxi or like common hand traps either. Like it really just like plays through all that shit.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it's still able to do its thing.
Engage to 2, most roll to 3 is really insane and generates you so much advantage after a certain point in the game. And it doesn't really lose to any hand traps. You just gotta get to that point, and I think
Exactly.
pretty much the first 2 turns of the game is gonna dictate whether you.
Honestly though, if you buy the deck early, it's still playable even without like some of the expensive cards because of how like cheap the core is. Like you can literally buy the core and just splash some cards you like in, like random hand traps that you might have. As long as you have something that's like somewhat relevant, then you can just splash it in. Because
Right.
the core is super cheap. Like it's not even funny.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the only ultra rare is like Kagari, right? Yeah.
Engage and
Engage.
Kagari.
Engage
Yeah.
Kagari.
Asian Kags,
And then everything else, yeah. The most expensive stuff is the hand traps, but I think it also builds like a good base for your box as well too.
Yeah.
Because once you start buying those hand traps up, like you can put them in zoo. You can pivot to try. You know what I mean? Like you can pivot to invoked. Like it starts you off well, I would say. So I think Striker is a good start off for sure. At least.
Yeah, and the
Just not
secret
that
pack
check.
for it, the secret pack for it just gives you the whole deck basically. So it's
That's
really really gem efficient for sure when you're buying packs.
I definitely was playing Striker. My Plat 5 list, I think I posted in that in the village, and I'm pretty sure I was playing like Torrential in the main, like Lost Winds were in there. Like it was the most budget thing, because I was trying to hold gems for a real deck, and so it's like you can literally just splash in random cards. I had a Judgment in there from the pack, like. I'm a sack, so I drew it every time. I was drawing Storm going second, Judgment going first. It was raps.
So when you're cracked, it's also just broken.
Yeah, you have a lot of flexibility if you know play go second cards like Storm and Even for sure too. Those can be blowouts.
All right.
Even laser super too. Yeah.
So we can all agree, Striker definitely A tier. A decent starter, cheap one, and like also strong deck with a lot of potential, which is good.
Yeah, no question.
Definitely on to this monster of a deck.
That's the guy.
That's S tier for sure.
Outlook for sure, right? It's
100% S.
It's above Adaman, bro. It has to be. This deck is broken.
I disagree, but I am so glad they didn't use alternate art Golden Lord. I'm gonna say that.
With skill drain,
dude,
like
it's
running
just,
rampant
yeah.
and Maxi at the same time, it's just not fair.
Yeah, it's the deck to put a damper on combo. That's for sure.
I will say this. I think that the format is too wide for Eldritch to be, in my opinion, like a top 3 deck. 4 maybe, but I don't think that it can main enough cards to deal with the wide meta. But
yeah,
right now in Plat 1, you're only playing Eldritch Mirrors or you're playing like Eldritch for Strytron. So because it's so like we're obviously just talking about Plat 1, like just the highest level players there.
Yeah.
They're all just playing the same thing. So I think like Eldritch for sure can beat Drytron with like D-Barrier main deck. You're just calling Ritual, scoop, or like, you know what I mean? Like game 1, so just scoop.
Mhm.
It definitely bumps Eldritch up because there's no side. A control deck with
That's what makes
where
it
they're
so
not getting
broken.
sided into is just so good.
That's what makes it so
You can do it
broken,
with skill
right?
drain too.
It's like people have to be main decking the the outs to skill drain and stuff, and if they're not main decking the outs to skill drain, you just caught them with their pants down, and like that's what Ellic does. Like it just catches you with your pants down if you're not main decking the outs to me. You know what I mean? And if you're not main decking the outs to me, I'm gonna put this big golden lord on the board, and I'm gonna swing, and I'm not gonna let you like play. You know, like that's exactly what it does to you, and that's why it's creating the meta and like kind of shaping the meta in itself. Is because it's not the best deck. I would say I definitely don't think it's the best deck of the format, but it's the deck of the format because it's shaping everything else around it.
You know
like that's what
I
it's doing.
I think ease of use definitely puts it maybe like
Yep, ease of use,
it's
price.
too easy to use, like,
Price, I don't think it's the most expensive. Like I don't. Like the extra deck does not matter. Like it really doesn't. Because if you're putting in the money to be able to put to get the golden lords, to get all of the trap staples that you need and all the hand trap staples you need, put the gems into those and then worry about the extra deck a little bit later as you go. Like you're climbing a plat while you're buying the rest of your deck. You know what I mean? Like the deck is gem efficient. Like it's easy to use, it's user friendly, it's not friendly to your opponent, and like it's consistent. It does what it does very consistently.
So this would probably be like the only hot take that I would have in this whole tier list. I actually think Eldritch probably belongs top of A tier and non-S tier, and I'll tell you why. The thing that makes Eldritch broken is obviously its access to floodgates. Like you can play skill drain, it can play emptiness, it can play Imperial Order, it can play Goes and Match or TC Boo maybe, but Eldritch's a very different deck between when it draws those cards and when it does not draw those cards, right? I would say like if it goes first and opens skill drain, emptiness, order, it's by far the best deck in the game. But when it doesn't draw those cards, I think it's more like a B tier deck because really you're just playing a trap deck that requires 2-card interactions to be able to interact.
Can we just talk about how they have 3 skill drain and order?
No, they no, don't.
So toxic.
Don't get me wrong, the floodgates are insane in that deck, and that's pretty much like so I see the argument of why it would belong in S tier. I would say, in my opinion, it would be high A tier. I think we can probably agree that maybe bottom of S tier is probably where it ends up belonging, just because it has so many floodgates. But I think also it's going second is just like it can play a lot of hand traps, which is cool. But if you play more hand traps, you're playing less traps. So like you have to find that balance between, do I want to play hand traps to not auto lose to cards like Rongo and Ultimateness, or do I want to play just more traps?
Oh, they really need to play Maxi.
They're playing things like Lava Golem, right, and Kaijus in order to just out things. Like some boards just do like a lot of Eldritch decks just do that. Like they just play like a couple going second cards, like really really strong ones, to be able to play against decks like those. Which means you kind of have to draw your out. But I mean that's what they're forcing everybody else to do too, right? It's like, oh, you have to draw your out. So it's okay for Eldritch players to be able to do that as well too. The only issue here, right, is a potential issue. It's like, is this deck able to be the best deck because of its engine is like not the strongest if it doesn't draw its floodgates, you know what I mean? Like I don't think potential wise it's definitely like high of A tier for me, but Master Duel wise, like the tier list, the way that the season is shaping, the way that the meta is shaping, like I think it's taking its spot for highest tier at the moment.
I'm gonna put Eldritch players on. You should definitely be main decking Witch's Strike.
Broken. Honestly, I think they should be main decking Judgment.
Strike,
if you're flipping, bruh, if you're flipping Judgment against people who are main decking, outs for skill drain, you're just flipping the meta again. You know what I mean? Like you're just flipping it again. Like now people are scared because they can't out it.
Witch's Strike just makes your go second crack. Like torrential,
I don't know.
Resolution, Witch's Strike. You're sad or not?
Eldritch's definitely the deck that makes not very good players on Master Duel still get plat one. So
yeah, true.
I agreed.
Yeah. So it's definitely up there. I think we can all agree that it's definitely at least S tier at the highest for sure. So on to the next one, Virtual World. I had so many things to say about this deck too as well. Like I personally, I don't know. I'll have Bonnie start off this one since he's been playing it a little bit. So Bonnie can start off.
I really think the deck does not belong in S tier, and the only reason why I say that is because
you played it
of the lack. Like with Maxi in the format, it makes it even harder to really pop off. I know we can make that what's that
Rongo?
card? No, not Rongo. The fucking
Gossip.
the Xyz Gossip Shadow. You can
Yeah.
make Gossip Shadow in the middle of the combo, but like you summon VFD and then there's just so much shit that can deal with it nowadays, like Chalice, Droplets, and all that stuff. That like once you do that, the recovery is just not there, and especially with like Eldritch and stuff running around, the shit that can just go out with the grind game in a game one. It's just really not it. And then like the consistency issues, like in game one specifically, if you're just not drawing like Lulu or like at least two names that you can just play with, the deck's just not like consistently breaking a board. Especially with the stuff that's out now, like Maxi, Skill Drain. Like if you go second, you're probably gonna lose if you're playing against those decks.
Right.
Like especially Eldritch.
So my
Like-
just I guess my like thing to that I would want to add into this is just let's just not forget, you know, VFD is obviously a thing, right? That card's broken. That card's very, very broken, and being able to summon it out, especially the way that Virtual World does, very consistently, is definitely broken. But I do agree with what Vonnie's saying here. Like I think the deck doesn't play through hand traps very well, especially in a format that has every hand trap available to it. Like it's I don't know if it's worth it. It loses to a lot of stuff. I mean, yeah, it kind of plays around skill drain, but it doesn't, right? You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't really play around skill drain. Like it has to out it. It has to chuche it. Like, you know, it has to find a way to get it off the board. So I don't know. A lot of the times, like this deck just feels like it feels like a watered down version of other combo decks because of the fact that it can't play through things. And I think that's really important in this format.
You know what? The deck is relatively cheap though. Like I wouldn't put it on like the cheap end like Striker, but like as far as like all the VW cards, I don't think any of them are ultra besides Shen.
Yeah.
Like main deck wise and everything. So
I think high A is a good spot for this though.
yeah, for sure. It's definitely up there because of VFD.
I would for sure put it. So I think no. I've been playing this deck too on my other account, and I think this is probably the fastest deck to climb to plat with. Like maybe not necessarily getting to plat 1, but you will just steamroll low ranks so fast with that deck. And I think I would put it at the bottom of S tier, and VFD is just a stupid card. Like you better have the out. I mean, there are other decks that make better floodgate monsters, as crazy as that sounds, because of Very Fun Dragon. But it's like it not only can it make VFD, but it also make VFD protected from droplet a lot of the time because you can just shoot your own VFD. And next turn you're 100% killing them because you got the Lily to add back the
Lulu
or the GG to add back the Lulu. So you're always gonna have follow up the turn after that, and 90% of your hands, as long as you draw two names, are gonna make VFD one way or the other, and you're gonna get the Lulu one way or the other. So I would say it was definitely way stronger at the beginning of the format. Like in season one, it was one of the best combo decks, I for sure think. And because everyone was like, "Oh my god, VFD's legal, Virtual World's got to be broken." And I think the deck's a little swap meet in some of the ways that it plays because it only has one VFD. And I definitely think if VFD was banned, that card wouldn't even be on this list. It would be broke as fuck. But sometimes you just can't doubt floodgate monsters. And so there's some games where you're just gonna make VFD and your opponent's just knock it.
Yeah, it's just a little inconsistent. That's what it is.
It loses to Eldritch like pretty bad because if like you go first, make that board, and then you go VFD, and then they just go set 5 pass. It's like, okay, my VFD was for nothing.
Right.
Now they have a skill drain set, and now they have answers to the rest of my board, and now they're just playing the game.
I actually think if Virtual World knows their, which obviously in Master Duel you can't do, but Virtual World in a game 3 situation, like in a match, actually just beats Eldritch. Like it actually just
100%, 100%, yeah.
In game one, if you're committing resources into VFD is different, but it actually as a deck. So going second against Eldritch, you actually have a favorable matchup. Eldritch doesn't have a lot they can really do against the Virtual World board. I like Nick's idea of putting it low S because of its flexibility. I've watched it happen to I think Vonnie, but I've also seen some of the lists where they're sending the hero off of Beatrice.
Yeah.
And then that's some meaning one. That one summons that, and you make the Gossip Shadow Rongo, and that's just like
they also have
every deck is doing that, but that's so good. Like
they also have some lines with Beatrice and Fairy Tale Snow, so I do think it has its place. And I think that I definitely think the difficulty to play is a little bit of a factor too. I'd say it's probably the second or third most.
That's a spreadsheet deck. Like
that's a spreadsheet deck.
It's for sure like the second or third most technical deck on this list. So.
Yeah, it's up there. I'm okay with putting it in like low S tier because of its potential.
It's
VFD,
definitely high A or low S.
yeah,
for sure.
it's nothing to scoff at for sure. Like VFD is nothing to scoff at for me either. So I wouldn't put anything past that at the most part. It's just like its hand trap and inconsistency issues. It's probably its biggest thing. But I could see it getting better in the future, especially if other things around it are getting hit. Like I can see it definitely getting better in the future as well too. So it has a lot of potential going up. So we'll end it at low of S tier, or yeah, bottom of S tier, I would say, somewhere around there. Cool. Next deck to talk about is Agnister. Have you guys seen this deck on the ladder? Because I haven't.
I
haven't
played against it. No.
But I'm gonna put it in B.
Okay, I can put it in. I'm down to put it in some high B. You know what I'm saying?
Because I think Agnister was shit on those 2 rogue deaths at the bottom for sure.
I don't know about low or high B. I think it probably deserves to be higher than that, just because like the arrival's in the game, right? I haven't actually seen the deck, but I assume that's going to be in the game.
Oh yeah, arrival's in the game. Should wait? Is it? Are we stupid? Are we stupid? If I'm
feel
the
like
dumb
it's gotta
one and
be.
arrival's not in the game, then
It's got to be in there, right? So
It has to
It
be.
is. It is. It's an
Okay,
ultra.
okay.
Yeah, that's like.
I was gonna say.
for sure. Because so that deck
I
has
was
two
like,
two really good things going for it. Is that no one really plays Droll and no one really plays Nibiru, and those are like the 2 main hand traps that stop that deck from being
That's
able to
true.
play Yu-Gi-Oh.
it loses fatty to nib for sure.
Yeah,
It's
it
fatty
definitely
to
like
nib and,
to those
and
2
Joel.
hand traps. Like when those start becoming more popular, because I think more people are going to start playing those because
Mm.
of Drytron, is when it's going to start to become more difficult. That deck can also afford to play cards like Crossout Callby and Ash Blossom and Talents and things like that. So I think it's
Yeah.
not quite as black and white as that. But still, at the end of the day, Arrival Cyber's Agnister is a 6,000 towers. And that's just ridiculous. Like even my opponent Max sees me, I can give him a gajillion cards. Like how are you outing that in action?
Yeah, if you're not
If you're
playing
not-
a kaiju, then like what are you gonna do?
If you're not making a kaiju, you don't have a way to make like unless they have to end on like a swap meet arrival with only 4K attack. Like how are you killing that?
Aren't Eldritch players playing kaijus now and stuff?
They are. They're playing stuff like that. So that's the only
Kaiju
You
are
way.
better
a lot.
have it though. Like,
Or Lava Golem.
if you make a rival cybers for 4 or 6, I don't care. Better have it.
Yeah, Lava
100%.
Golem's not going to do anything to it because it's only going to end on that one monster.
Yeah,
so it's
Lava Golem has
literally
tribute too.
it literally has to be a kaiju, or they have to have had a battle defense and on a 4K arrival, and you have to access code. Those are like literally the only outs, but it also just has a ridiculous follow up. So
Mhm.
with that graveyard monster. So a lot of the times they're also going to
Dokiri
have
or
to
something?
negate. Yeah, the one if you have a rank 6, it just negates anything. That card's stupid too. So I would probably put it somewhere in A tier probably. I think it's taking a risk playing a super heavy combo deck like that into just a bunch of decks that have a lot of
What
traps.
does it do going second though? Like going second, like how does it like?
Access code kill you?
Yeah, it has
Transcode
like
and
transcode,
update jammer.
Yeah.
update jammer, splash mage. Like it does have plays going second. Through floodgates, it's a little tricky, but
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like through floodgates. I don't know.
its field spells also just ridiculous.
Gavin, are you here?
That's true.
I see you're muted. Like,
He's like,
Yeah,
Gavin, are you able
Gavin,
to talk about
I'd
your
like
deck?
your opinion on
one
this.
time I want your input.
But he hasn't built Agnister on Master Duel. He's only playing Dragon Link.
It's
So
like he could. He's not here.
It's
Alright,
fine.
Respect.
it's fine. We'll keep it at a high B tier for now.
I would say B for sure.
No, at least high B tier.
Doesn't
We just don't have enough data on it yet. I don't think. Maybe at the moment. For now, Arrival isn't nothing to scoff at. I mean, obviously we've all played it against it in the TCG, but seeing it in the Master Duel meta is a different story, right? The fact that I haven't seen it up on the ladder, I think speaks volumes.
I do think there's a different Cyberse combo deck that has a lot
There
more
is.
potential than that deck.
There is a different Cyberse combo deck that's been playing around right now. Yeah, I actually lost to it once
Yeah.
with Shadows.
I think that deck is probably a lot higher, but no
Yeah.
one plays it. So I think that's also a big like surprise factor because no one's going to know how to hand trap that deck.
People are playing it because of Coder, I think. So.
Ah.
Cool. Alrighty, on to the next deck that I thought it was going to be a little better since Colossus is back with Thunder Dragon.
It for sure fell off for me.
It fell off, right? Yeah, it fell off hella
Yeah.
hard. I was seeing it for a bit, but like they summoned Colossus on me at one point, and I was just like, "Yo, bro, this is so broken." And then I summoned like Lyrilisk, to attack directly, make Zeus, and I made it leave the board, and then they couldn't do anything anymore. Like I just kept comboing, and then they're just like, "Okay, well, now what I do?" So I don't know. I don't see Thunder Dragon being higher than B tier, low
Every
tier,
every
maybe?
time I
Somewhere
pl-
around
every time I played against that deck with Striker, I just won.
Right.
I think it's probably a B tier deck, and that's only because of Colossus. Unfortunately, I think like in 2019 there was that really broken Thunder combo deck, but they had a lot more gas than that. Like they had cards like Eclipse Wyvern, and they had some like Crusadia cards, and they had a bunch of dangers, which are all still in the game. But I think it's just it just kind of like stumbles over itself when it goes first a lot of the time because they also had like LP and Agripane, so they had a lot easier time, and they also had multiple Colossus. So
Right.
like in that deck, they just had like a way easier way of setting up a turn one board. I think this deck setting up turn one board is just like really, really awkward because pretty much like, yeah, you can get your Thunder, your like Battery Man Solar, use a Thunder effect in hand, make a Colossus, and that's cool. And some people will just lose to that, to be fair. I mean that's nothing to scoff at for sure. But I it's just not enough a lot of the time. I mean, a lot of these
I
decks
remember.
can play through Colossus, and
It's
like there'll be some games where you'll auto win against Drytron because they don't have the out. But aside from that, I just really
yeah.
see like Colossus Pass being enough.
Yeah, it's the same situation again, dude. Like they just like ended up falling off. Like they really got power crept. Like all these decks really got power crept for the most part. Like there was a point in time where they were extremely strong, like in Eternal and TCG, but showing here in Master Duel because of so many things are unbanned. Like even the things that make these these decks broken, that made them broken in the past. Like we're just seeing that. Like I honestly like it's still not enough to beat Eldritch. Like it's still not enough to beat Drytron. Like it's just not. It just isn't enough. Yeah.
The Thunder engine also just isn't a very good engine. Like even like the other
Yeah.
Thunder decks that people played didn't actually play very many Thunder monsters. They played enough to be able to make some Colossus, like one or two Colossus, but they didn't actually play that many because like yeah, Allure of Darkness, Banish Thunder Dragon Roar is cool. You get a free monster, you get a plus, and all stuff like that. But all of them are just one effect once per turn. So it's like very restrictive in that sense. And just like drawing a handful of Thunder monsters, you have to really stumble over yourself to be able to make plays. So
Yeah. All right. I think this is the most we can say about Thunder Dragon. Honestly, like it just honestly fell off for me.
yeah.
I think maybe in the future it might be a little better, but honestly,
It's
this
better
right now, it's just
decks.
not. They're just better decks right now. Yeah, just better decks at the moment. So cool. On to the next one, Tri Brigade. I think this is a very controversial one. We're just gonna go ahead and assume that this is Tri Brigade Zoo. This is not pure Tri. So this is Tri Zoo, which is the best the best version of the deck that's being played right now. We'll talk about Lyrilisk Tri when we get to it, and then we'll talk about like actual pure Zoo when we get to it. But right now, we'll just talk about Tri Brigade as being Tri Zoo. For the most part, and honestly, I think this deck is like top 3 for sure top 3 from what's being seen at the moment. Like I don't know how much you guys are into like the like full Master Duel meta, like what like tier 1 is looking like right now, but this is up there. Like I'm seeing a lot. I see a lot of this deck on the ladder. I see a lot of this deck on tournaments on Twitch. Like I see this deck a shit ton in Master Duel in general, and it's just one of the most decks that. Just one of the most played decks in Platinum at the moment. And what it does, just with the capability of being able to go first and do Tri Brigade stuff, the capability of being able to go second and break boards with main deck Lightning Storm and main deck hand traps, with so many different main deck hand traps. It just did the same thing it did in the TCG when it was at full power with Imperial Order, you know what I mean? Like just last format. Like it's doing the exact same thing and it's just showing it.
And now it has
just,
Maxi.
Yeah, it just
so
has
like,
Maxi and it has to contend with Skill Drain Eldritch, which is, the same deck, and full power Drytron, but it's still doing it, you know what I mean? Like it's still doing the same thing. So I think it's for sure at least a top 3 deck. So whatever.
Yeah, that deck is that deck's the most flexible out of all the decks, I think, just because you can play literally whatever you want. I mean, your engine's not that big, so you have the potential to play cards like Lightning Storm evenly matched. You have the potential to play a lot of hand traps.
Right.
You don't really care about Maxi because all of your plays are super non-committal. Like you could summon a Tri Brigade, and then if you get Maxi, you can just like end on a smaller board. You can get your Zoo monster and you can make your Dryden, which is already like a hard card out as it is. I mean, if just ending on Dryden plus a Maxi and another hand trap in your hand is just already just stupid.
Yeah, it has so many interruptions.
And you're just always gonna have a play turn after turn after turn. You're just always gonna have a Tri Brigade monster normal summon, get Sure Egg. It's like, and it plays super well into trap decks because you can just end on Sure Egg, and then you can just like revolt on their turn when you already have a Sure Egg, and then you get a banish on their turn and a banish on your turn. So its engine is really super strong. As having the capacity to play a bunch of hand traps and have it not brick your engine is super important. And yeah, a lot of top players seem to agree that the deck's really strong. So
yeah. The deck's just very, very consistent. It does what it does very, very well. There's just no beating it. Like if it opens up well enough going first, like it's like even with my strongest Drytron hand, sometimes like it feels like it's gonna be very difficult to beat. You know what I mean?
I think it's like we talk about game ones and how Master Duel's like game one, you can't go first, you can't go second. I think this is the only deck that can.
Right.
Aside from Striker, because I think Striker can do both well. But I actually think this is just infinitely better than Striker. It's the only one that's like, damn, I lost Dyro or coin flip. It's fine. I have 12 hand traps in the main. I'm killing you. Oh, I won Dyro. I'm setting up a nasty board. It's not that nasty. It's just like a control board, but it's killing you.
But it's enough. Yeah, it's killing you the turn after that because Revolt is just, return from a different dimension. Like it's insane.
Yeah, in a best of three format, when people will actually have the potential to side Lancey, or if Lancey becomes more popular in the main deck, I do see that deck going lower. Uh, but that card just doesn't exist right now, so
Yeah.
that's like the only deck's real hard counter.
Exactly. As of right now, Master Duel, like this deck does what it does very well. So I think it definitely deserves to be highest.
For sure.
All right. On to Dragon Link. I didn't know if Gavin's here, but Nick, I'll let you start off on this one since this is your tried and true.
My neck of the woods.
Your true love.
So, funny enough, on my second account, I played that deck undefeated to Plat 1. And
broken.
Yeah, it was kind of insane. That being said, I actually really don't think the deck's really that strong. I think the biggest thing the deck has going for it is that Wyvern Buster and Collapse Serpent are at 3. So because of that, you're always not breaking. Like pretty much if you draw some combination of Chaos Space or a White or a Black or a normal summon Black Metal Dragon, you're literally getting to your 2 dragons, and all that deck needs is to get access to 2 dragons to have access to its full engine. So it's like probably the most consistent combo deck out of all of them, and it has the ability to end on a lot of different boards. Like you can play the Delinger's Dragon, Triple Burst, Unchained Abomination, and that's just super strong against trap decks when you go first. You have the ability to play Unicarry and a Buster Lock on a Savage Dragon, which is just an FTK against a lot of decks.
Yeah.
You have
Buster Lock is definitely a thing.
You have even like the cool thing is when you get Max Seed, you have the potential to end on small boards because you could just end on Steel Tidying, and that's still really, really strong. Especially because the deck also inherently plays a lot of hand traps, just because it has all the space for it. Because you don't have to play that many dragons really. Because if you have White and Black Dragon at 3, then you only need to draw one of those and a way to get it to the field to just have access to your full engine. So, and it makes your Pisty plays a little bit easier, and it has multiple Striker Dragons, so its follow up's also really insane. And also, Levianeer is just ridiculous card in general. So, I would say it probably belongs in high A tier, just because a lot of the time its engine feels like it's stumbling over itself. A lot of times you have to really work to get to your Tracer, and if you get hand trapped in like the right spot on like if you have Romulus, it gets negated. Especially with the OCG ruling where your Noctovision Dragon doesn't chain block the way it does in the TCG, to where you can go like Striker Dragon, Chain Link 1, and they can respond to it before you Noctovision Dragon. Definitely makes the deck a little bit worse, because sometimes if you get cut off a Boot Sector launch with an Ash, then your turn's gonna be way more awkward. So
that's an OCG thing. In OCG, you can't chain block with cards that activate in hand.
With hand effects like Knockdown and Parallax Seed. Yeah, I saw that post on
I don't know if it's higher than Striker though. Because like if you make like that board and Striker is going second, I feel like it's eating that. Striker has like Afterburner, Widow Anchor, bunch of hand traps interact.
Because I don't know if this is. I didn't think this was ordered.
It
we
is.
would order it at the end.
It's kind of ordered. It's ordered to me, like in a sense.
Yeah, like Rocket's definitely a speedrun win deck, because if you set up Buster Lock turn 1 and they end on nothing, or they don't break it, you're killing them next turn no matter what. Because you're going to have access to Levianeer through either your Seal or through your Ravine floating on field in some situations. You're going to have the ability to get access to your whole deck, and then the follow-up is just ridiculous because you have Unicorn Access Code, you have Boral Sword, you have Levianeer Pop, you have an ability to make another 8. So pretty much if your turn 1 sticks, your turn 2 is they're dying. And I think that's the one thing the deck really has going for it, because also with the multiple Strike Dragons, you always are getting your recharge the turn after. So one dragon will just give you everything in your graveyard. And so that's like the thing that I think it has going for it. In my opinion, against Striker, it really depends on if they can out the Buster Lock or not. I mean, if Striker is under Buster Lock and they don't have the double out to the Savage with the Dragon Buster on it, then they just can't play. So I think it really comes down to that, if they have the ability to play through the Savage with like Afterburner Droplet or not. In most of my situations, Striker kind of just got blown, but that was in my limited Striker decks. Honestly, most of the decks I played against with Rocket were like Control Backrow decks, and Unchained Abomination just hate all of that. So
yeah, Rocket Tracer, like Rocket in general, is pretty good. Just simply just for the fact that you can play through a lot of stuff. Like there's a lot of things that it can do to play going second, and there's a lot of things that it can obviously do going first. Going first, its board is crazy, and going second, I think it's one of the better combo decks when it comes to going second, because of how much it can just break an actual board, bait stuff out. Like it does what it does pretty well. I just think that you could always be doing the same thing with different combo decks here on the list. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
you definitely
In a
have to
better
work
fashion.
harder. You definitely have to work harder than other combo decks for sure. I think going second, the
Yeah.
biggest strengths that you have, Destrudo, Yazi to Marimar, that's just like insane because if they don't have skill drain, then you're eating like all of their back row with
Mm.
the Yazi pop into the Marimar tokens, into Phoenix, into Unicorns. So
Mm.
I think like it does have a lot of gas going second, and also its ability to play a lot of hand traps and not really care. Like you can play cards like Gamma and Maxi and Ash and Imperm if you want.
Right.
And so it does have a lot of flexibility in that aspect. Like I was thinking about making Droll for higher on the ladder, but I never ended up doing that.
Right.
So
So we definitely can see
it's a
this
good,
being high A tier for sure, though. At least, right? It's a great combo deck.
yeah, really good combo deck. Not the best combo deck, but it's also hard to play, obviously. So that's a little bit of an aspect. But I think when it
Right.
in good hands, it can definitely get you there. So I would say high A for sure.
For sure. Yeah. So knowing that about Rocket, like I mean, we know that's a good combo deck for the most part, but like the real question is more, is it better than the other decks on the tier list? And like, but being that it might not be, just in case, like it has the potential like in the future, but the other decks are just a little bit better. I think A tier is like a good spot for it for sure.
Yeah, there are definitely better combo decks on this list.
Yeah. So on to the next one, Lyric's Brigade. That's like definitely a strong deck, right? Like definitely a strong combo deck, but where do we think it lands on the tier list?
It fell off for me
In itself.
too.
Yeah,
Right?
it hard fell off.
Yeah, it was like on release, season 1. This deck was just so cheap and like.
That's true.
Also,
All their
when it
Lyric
came
stuff
out,
is so cheap.
when it came out, you could build almost the exact same card for card as you could in the TCG. So all the TCGs floated to this deck.
Yeah.
It was so cheap. You could make it like instantly. You didn't have to play the solo mode to do it. It was rad.
Right.
Now it's like probably A tier, middle A tier. Like
Yeah, it's just another one of those decks that cries to Maxi.
Cries to
and
Nibiru.
A lot of decks since decks are just playing so many hand traps right now, and that
Yeah.
deck in the TCG it wasn't as fragile because a lot less people were. I mean, no one was maining Droll, no one was really maining Nib for a while, and Maxi
Right.
wasn't a card, and so it had the potential to just be able to play through because they can play through cards like Ash and Imperm
Right.
through like Cobalt, making yourself untargetable. So you have a lot of like technical ways to play around stuff, but there's no way to do that with Maxi.
With the low ability hand traps, it can do a lot against it, but against Maxi and Nibiru, like I don't know.
Yeah, I would say it probably still belongs in the bottom of A tier because I do think it's still a really strong deck. It still has like access to Tri-Brigade monsters, which does give it the ability to make smaller boards through Maxi. Like you can get Maxi and then end on like some more with Avion or some more with Barrier Statue. So sometimes
Trizu
that can get you there. Sometimes that can get you there, but
No.
it just seems like a worse version of Tri-Brigade in my opinion. Like if you're gonna play that, you might as well just play Trizu.
Yeah. You might as well just play Trizu. Trizu is probably just the better build in general.
Yeah, because it's better going second. I think Bird
Someone
has a
said,
problem going second.
someone said, what about Trizu? So that's what the Nerval is in S tier. It's Trizu.
Yeah. So the Trizu itself is probably the better build to go for sure. As for the Lyrilisk stuff, like it's strong, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's I don't think like I said, like a lot of at least from my experience here in Plat 1, like a lot of the stuff that you have to play against when it comes to playing a combo deck is you need to have a combo deck that can protect yourself from getting hand trapped, from getting hit by those hand traps, from getting destroyed by that stuff. That's the biggest issue. And I don't really like these combo decks such as Virtual World, combo decks such as Emancipator, or not Emancipator, sorry, that one has Guardian. Combo decks such as Rockets, combo decks such as Lyrilisk. Like I don't like these combo decks that don't create a negate like some way early. Like it makes it so you have to have Called by the Grave. It makes it so you have to have a triple attack. It makes it so you have to have Crossout Designator. Like I don't like those kind of combo decks because if you don't have an actual way to protect yourself, or you don't have a set way in your deck to protect yourself, then a lot of the times these combo decks just are getting hit by some kind of hand trap, and then they have to swap meet into a board that's going to get destroyed by a real combo deck. You know what I mean? By somebody who is creating a combo deck or who built a combo deck that can just break a board. You know, so. That's my biggest issue with this, and Lyrilisk definitely like fails the mark compared to the rest of them. Like the rest of them just do what that does better. Don't get me wrong, having the Tri-Brigade stuff and having the ways to do the Tri-Brigade stuff is just as broken, but it's end board. Honestly, it's end board with Simorg and with Ensemble Blue and Utopic Future Draco. Like that would be absolutely cracked. Don't get me wrong. That would be absolutely cracked in this current TCG meta, but in actual like Master Duel meta, like I don't know, it doesn't feel the same to me. So
yeah,
what's going on,
Lyrilisk also just Clearlisk isn't the best engine that starts with L. Because they have Lunalite, they have Triple Tiger, and that's cool. So that's a rough one.
Cool. Well, we're recording a video right now, guys. We'll talk about your guys' actual suggestions in a bit. Okay. Cool. So on to the next one. So I think like A tier is definitely like a good spot for us to put it. Let's see, Zoo. This is pure Zoo for those who are in the chat who don't know. Like actual Tri Zoo is up here in S tier. And Lyralisk's Trevor Gate is right here in A tier. This is just pure Zoo with hand traps. How we think about building this. The reason why I ended up putting this as one of the choices here on the tier list maker is because a lot of players at the start of the season, they were playing like a pure Zoo build instead with just a bunch of hand traps to be able to get to places without having to play Trevor Gate stuff. So this is just pure Zoo. It's just hand trap stuff and Zeus to the deck. You know what I mean? So.
Go ahead, Lonnie.
Yeah, I think it's S, and I think it's higher than Adaman.
Higher than Adaman.
They're wild.
I think it's high. Okay, no, I think it's S. I don't think it's higher than these decks. I think it's probably around here.
I think there's no reason to play that over Tri-Zoo, is my thing.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with that for sure.
Zodiac monsters
is better.
Zodiac monsters are some mid, and barrage isn't legal. So those are the big reasons. I mean, you can still like do the Mega Clops thing. And
honestly, you kind of can't. Without Rat Pierre, you kind of can't.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Oh, Rat's just banned, isn't it?
Rat's just banned, bro.
Rat's
just banned, yeah.
Nick is like, that's even a better reason for me to drop it even lower, bro.
No.
I mean, that's not even a play. I think it's probably high A tier, to be honest.
I disagree with saying you should just play Tri-Zoo because they do different things, all right? Like, Zoo has its niche where it's playing it. At least the lists I've seen have played infinite hand traps, and some even D-shifter and like.
Yeah, that's
macro,
and it's wraps.
I don't know, man. Like the thing about it, right? So let's think about it. Let's bring it back to like a Master Duel meta and like a Master Duel vacuum, right? Like how often are you seeing this thing on the ladder just being pure Zoo? I feel like we're seeing a good amount of Zoo. Don't get me wrong, and I think its biggest strength is the fact that it can play so many hand traps. As for the potential of like actually winning in Plat 1, like streaking over and over and over again against the decks like Eldritch and then against like decks like Drytron, it's kind of hit or miss because there's just sometimes where you just don't draw Zoo and the deck can feel really shit. Like that's its biggest issue, I think, is like where there's just some hands where you just don't draw a Zoo. And I feel like the positive of playing this deck over Brigade is that it's a little better going second, I think is what it is. It's just a little better going second. But I don't think it's worth enough of that to disregard being able to go first with Brigade or second, you know what I mean? So I can agree. High A, low S, somewhere on there for sure.
Edder's just always got glue on his mind, I swear. Edder's just always thinking of glue. He's like, yo, we can make that D-shifter. Let's go.
I was gonna make that strikes in my build.
No, I had Dre play it. I made him play shifters. I made him play macro.
You made play fissure. He made me play all of this glue stuff, bro. It was wild.
And it had like just our list wasn't good, but the thought and the theory of the deck behind it pushed us. It was cracked. We lost because Dre just doesn't know what Ram does. We were winning.
I just didn't know how to detach. I just didn't.
See, the thing about that deck is you play more Zoo monsters because you want to be able to Zeus more, but Zeus is at 1. I think if Zeus wasn't at 1, that deck's easily S tier.
But it's just not at 1 with Avarice, bro. But it's just not at 1 because you just Avarice.
I play Avarice in my shit.
Okay. Well,
that shit is cracked, bro.
I'm gonna sacrifice Zeus
one
twice.
on the limited list. The card has a 1 next to its top left corner.
Got a 1. I got 3 over here with 2 Avarice.
You can't put cards in your hoodie sleeves and Master Duel due to lag.
He said you can't lap the Zeus.
You can't lap the Zeus out the extra deck.
You can't lap extra decks, dog. What do you mean I made Zeus? I didn't make Zeus.
What's cool about Zoo too is you can play it going first or second. Like you can make your build with like a bunch of traps and like minimal hand traps and like end on just like Trident set traps pass with some hand traps in your hand. Or you can just go balls to the walls all second with like nothing but hand traps and pure Zoo. And just go for Zeus, board breaking shit.
You just need D-shifter.
You just need D-shifter. All right, so I think we can agree. Zoo is definitely up there because it has like the power to play against a lot of different decks. But I don't know. I don't think it's definitely like the highest consistency. I think it wins a lot.
It's pretty cheap too, isn't it? Like the whole like all the
Yeah,
zoo
the
shit,
hand traps are the most expensive. That's for sure.
yeah, it's just like Striker.
Yeah, it's just like Striker for sure.
If it had Barrage or Rat or
I'll give
like
it a high A.
or multiple Zeus, it would be S, but I think it's high A.
Yeah, I'll give it a high A for sure.
Bro, we play Monster Reborn.
Oh, it's my turn.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah. Let's get Eder to get the start. Let's talk about his favorite. You know, could have been the 3-peat, should have been the
My normal
3-peat,
summon deck.
would have been the 3-peat. The normal summon, the prank kids, baby. The prank kids.
Infinity
I've
Stone
never
said.
seen one card give you so much advantage than any of the 3 main prank kid cards, right? Like one normal summon gets you like a +9. Like this is just not fair. But it's for sure A. It's not S. It can play like 9 to 12 hand traps. You play if you're playing 40, you would play like 10 pranks, 11 pranks. And you have 3 meow meows in this game. This format has 3 meows, so the deck has to be A or S. I'm gonna say A. Droplet is a card. It's like really.
I'd
rough.
say middle A. Yeah.
That's right.
I think
Probably.
Pranks is better salad. That's pretty much.
Yeah, if we're talking
It's-
about normal summon decks. Like
It's
Prank-
literally the same deck. It's super reliant on its normal summon. It's super reliant on its first prank going first most of the time. Like there are some times when you have a continuous spell to be able to kind of play through your first prank hit getting Ash, but it still hurts you a lot.
Mhm.
And like, you know, if you can go second, I mean, it's a deck that if its normal summon gets compulsed, it like just passes a lot of
Right.
the time. So,
But- Yeah.
but it can main skill drain, which pulls it up a lot. I don't know if all the builds are doing that, but that's just cracked.
Not really. I don't think so. I don't think too many builds are doing that right now. But like even still, like that. I think the deck has a lot of engine and it has a lot of grind game, which I think beats a lot of decks in the format. Like
Yeah, it has
having
a
a
lot
lot
of
of grind
glue.
game is pretty good.
It is very flexible. It has a lot of glue potential to main cards like skill drain and TC Boo and things like that. So it definitely has its gas. And if it goes first uninterrupted, I feel like it's probably winning the game if they don't get dropletted.
Yeah, I feel
But-
like the better glue deck to play. Like Eldritch is just it, you know, the only
Yeah,
issue.
but go second is just a little too rough a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's true. Going second can be a little rough with prank kids, especially, and it just still loses to Ash on the one prank kid. Like in all honesty, like if it doesn't have the extender, the follow up to be able to follow up after getting that prank kid Ash, like there's just not much the deck is doing after that. But if it resolves it has a lot, you know, it has like a lot of potential afterwards. So
Yeah. Better salad.
Yeah,
better solid.
it's
Yeah. Okay. I got a bone to pick with this here. I gotta be honest with you guys.
okay.
I gotta be honest with you guys here. I think this deck is dog shit in Master Duel, man. I don't want to say
I'm
dog
glad
shit,
you
but
thought
I
the
gotta
same
be.
thing.
I gotta be honest with you, dude. I gotta be honest with everybody here. I've always been, you know, the what would I even call myself? I'd be the Alistair Messiah. You know what I mean? Like I've always been summoning Alistair, especially with the Shadal build that's going around right now. Like it's a lot of Alistair, a lot of Invoke Shadal Dogmatica. It's not a lot of Invoke Dogmatica. It's a lot of Invoke Shadal Dogmatica. And I'm always the person to say that this deck, if this deck was broken, like I'll play it any day of the week. Trust me, if I think it's like enough to beat the best decks. But in all honesty, I don't think this deck it has enough right now to beat some of the best decks. Because of the fact that Eldritch is in the format, it's just too much. It's just too much for it. Like if this deck we're doing what it did, especially with Natter Servant at 1,
Yeah,
that
one
shit
to three is
hurt,
really,
dude. Yeah, dude. Honestly, if it were able to do what it did in the TCG and play against like Eldritch, like it would have like a better like chance. But just because Fusion Destiny isn't out yet, and because Natter Servant is at 1, it already loses so hard to Eldritch because skill drain is so hard to deal with. Like you have to resolve your Shadal Fusion. Like you have to resolve your Shadal Fusion to be able to pop it with Dragon. Otherwise, you just will lose because Alistair cannot get over it. He cannot stop skill drain. He really cannot. Like that's his biggest issue right now. If you're able to get it in the grave, it's post, then that's the only point where it's actually good. But other than that, like I don't think it does well enough. Like I would put it at low A tier, like at best at the moment. It has a decent matchup against Drytron because of Super Poly, but and even against Tri-Brigade, like it doesn't have a good enough matchup because it has Shadal Fusion at least. But other than that, like I don't think the deck is doing well enough. I think it needs the other decks to be nerfed because the deck at the end of the day is still just a little too fair. It just is. It's just a little too fair. It requires a lot of engine. It requires a lot of good things to happen to you while you're playing playing, and like most of the time these other decks on this list, they're not letting you do that. You know what I mean? So don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. Like normal style Alistair will always be consistent. Activating Shaddoll Fusion will always be broken going second, but even now, like I can't see it in the current Master Duel meta, especially as a game one meta, and sometimes you just lose the die roll. Like it can just be very difficult playing this deck. Like sometimes
Yeah,
it's more worth to put money somewhere else, and it's not the cheapest. In all honesty, it's just not, because Shaddoll cards are expensive because they know that Shaddoll boss monsters are favorite.
Especially if you want them royal finish Alistairs.
Yeah.
But no, I think
Yeah,
I pretty much agree with everything you said. Like one Nadir and no Fusion Destiny makes your deck kind of struggling for engine cards, so then you gotta start playing Shaddoll monsters to be able to consistently get access to Schism. And unfortunately, I'm sorry, Jay, Shaddoll monsters suck. So, Shaddoll Fusion is really strong. Shaddoll monsters are something. Those cards are bricks.
Yeah.
I've said it for a
Samuel's
long
with
time now. If your Invoke deck has to play Shaddoll cards, then the list is just wrong. The deck is bad. I said that in the TCG, and I'll say it in Master Duel. If your Invoke deck has to have Shaddoll cards, it's bad. And I think with no DPE and the Dogma engine being limited,
It's just weaker.
obviously it's weak. So it's like you need a supplemental engine,
Yeah.
and there's nothing else but Shaddolls, and it just makes the deck so much more inconsistent. And then like you're looking at like your Invocation, and you're thinking, wow, I either go for like a Macabre play, or I'm going for a hard fuse like Winda, and it's just neither play is fire.
Yeah.
It should be both, not one or the other. Like
Yeah.
Neither
It's
play is hot
so
right
bad.
now, bro.
Fusion
That's
Destiny.
actually what it feels like.
I
It
think
hurts to play.
I think putting Nadir at 1 really hurt its going second potential too, because
Yeah.
that was like the card that really broke boards, like honestly. But I mean, you still have Super Poly and shit, but at the end of the day, like if you have to resolve Super Poly in your deck and not kill the player next turn, you're probably gonna die.
Mhm.
Fusion Destiny just made it a different deck in the TCG for sure.
Yeah.
It's just a completely different deck post Fusion Destiny and after Fusion Destiny. And like, before that, like drawing Fleur wasn't terrible because at least you had Anaconda into DPE, but you just don't have that. So
Yeah.
it just doesn't have enough good stuff.
Sorry, Alistair. I just have to put you below everything else. Like honestly, at least it has like stuff to play through hand traps at the end of the day. But other than that, I can't think of anything else. Its power spell cards are good, but even then, like it's not strong enough for me. Like for me to
Just
put any of those moves.
toss that next guy just straight up to the top. Don't even talk about
Honestly, let's talk about PK first. I don't have a lot to
Yeah.
say about this because honestly, like I'm not like the PK god here, but like I know Rongo
Oh.
was cracked. So
I got a lot to
I've
say
seen
about
Rongo and scooped. You know what I mean? So
I've got a lot to say about that deck.
I don't have too much to say about it, but
just,
we can have you guys start
actually-
this off for sure. So what do you guys think about PK?
I think
I don't
Nick's
know
probably
shit
plays
about
it a lot
this.
more than
Yeah, I
do.
don't play this deck.
I do have it built on one of my accounts. I haven't played a game with it yet, but I've played against it. I think it's probably the worst S tier deck, just because this is a deck where if your combo resolves, you're not losing. It's wraps. It's over. Game's over.
Right.
If you resolve your combo, you won the game. I don't care what you played against. You're getting FTK'd. No other deck on this list does that. Right? Everything else is losing to Droplet. Rongo just isn't affected. It doesn't activate. It's not affected. You're setting cards. He's nuking them. It doesn't matter. This deck wins going first if it resolves.
That deck is the best deck in Master Duel. I'm gonna say it. That deck is the best deck in Master Duel. Like there's just no question. It's 100% the best combo deck. We can debate about best deck in Master Duel. That deck's tier 0. Rongo is the most ridiculous card that's ever been printed in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! That card says you cannot play and you cannot out me. Like, what are you gonna do? It has just insane. It has insane going second potential because of Zeus and all the PK cards just recurring themselves. I've never seen something more ignorant. Like
I just want to let you know that I don't know if you were here in the call, but the other night Karan literally lost to Blue Eyes with this deck. So I don't know what the fuck you're saying. But
No, so
Karan's just not it.
I don't know. You're not losing. You're resolving Rongo and you won the game. It's like you could say that Kali Yuga is like very similar, but that's wrong because Kali Yuga loses to the Blind Cosmic. You just get hit on it, wraps. It is what it is. There's no Cosmic. It just
There's zero
happens on
counterplay.
their turn
Even
zero.
if you get max seed, it doesn't matter. You can have 35 cards in your hand and you're not out in Rongo. You're losing next turn. You have
The only way you don't die to this deck is if you play. You open up 6 dangers.
Isn't there like isn't there like an Xyz you can like imperm like within the combo that just stops the combo? Like
No, there's no. All it is it's two threes, 2 4s. the
All it is.
K deck puts that up in all of its.
But what if you get Nibiru?
Okay, so
we're just not gonna sit. We're just gonna sit here and act like Nibiru doesn't exist.
We're,
Like
we're playing cross out. It's fine.
Okay, totally. Yeah, totally. We're playing cross out. Yeah.
And then it goes
Yeah.
back on decks that play that shit aren't really real decks.
You feel me?
And Dre has said this too, and I'm sure he'll agree with me. Nib is just not the hand trap of this game.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are playing it though. Surprisingly enough, like a lot
It's
of people are
not-
playing it, but it's not good in this format. Like it's not. I think
Yeah.
people are stupid playing it. Like I really do.
If you
But-
play it, you play 1 to draw it off of your maxi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
I said if you're playing it, you're
yes,
playing in those
yes.
heavier hand trap decks like Zoo and Striker,
Now,
where you
that's
can
that good shit.
afford to draw into it.
That's that sexy.
I wouldn't play it
That's what
at
you wanna
3 just because of Eldritch, because that
Yeah.
shit talks.
Yeah, seeing multiple of those in your hand, looking at Eldritch cards, like that's not
It's
fun.
lost.
That's not fun at all. Okay, but back to actual PK. Like I don't know. I feel like this deck doesn't have enough going second. I feel like Zeus, like make Zeus. Like if you really think that's enough to stop like a Drytron player, like I think you're crazy. I think you're fucking insane. Like there's no way that's enough. Like,
Honestly,
you're not making Rongo through fucking 9 negates of my perfection. Like what the fuck? What are you talking
On
about?
the Nick train.
Yeah, I think it's A.
It's not
like-
the best deck, but no, it's not the best deck.
I think it'll be up there in S tier for sure, though. You know, what I
You
mean?
did not just put Rongo in A tier. Hold
Yeah,
up.
it's
There is no way.
Rongo's cracked. Okay, Rongo's
By-
cracked. Don't get me wrong.
By the way, I don't even think that's the best Rongo deck because there's got to be some Warrior Rongo deck that does that better because Magical Midbreaker Field is just a 3.
I think Nick is definitely just like a Rongo fangirl. Is what is going on.
no.
That card is ridiculous. It's game. That card is game.
I'm not on the Nick train where it's the best deck just because it's right. Like its go second is just not as good as it should be. But it's the only card game. It's the only deck on this list where if your combo resolves, you have no excuse. If you lose, you forgot to activate Rongo end phase. Like,
Even if you forget, it's better for you, bro. You have more materials still.
Did we not forget about 6M?
Oh, what?
That's
6M
correct.
does it. Yeah, 6M does Rongo for like.
Oh
30,
yeah, it
so-
makes Rongo. Yeah. Okay.
So
Okay.
you know, I guess for me, the PK emblem up there just means Rongo. If you're
Yeah,
playing,
it should've-
if you're
it should've-
playing PK without Rongo, the deck sucks.
Well,
It
without
should've just been the
Rongo, that
Rongo
deck's-
picture.
Without Rongo as Rogue, but I think you just put a picture of Rongo, you put it at the top of S tier, we call it a day, we go home in the video right now. 'Cause that's insane. Insane.
Best card.
Best
Rongo
floodgate
card.
monster in the game.
Best floodgate monster ever created. Best towers ever created. Easy peasy.
It's not even a
No,
floodgate.
shit.
Like that card is Cannon Soldier 8
What?
times. It's like, I mean, 16 times. Like, it's an FTK. Like,
It's not a floodgate. Literally says you can't normal special summon. Oh, it's not a
I'm saying
floodgate.
It's not a floodgate. It's an FTK. That's Cannon Soldier 16 times.
I
Like,
don't know what you guys are talking about. If I'm making Crooked Cook, that monster's not doing anything to me until I draw Exodia. You know what I'm saying?
How are you making Crooked Cook through can't normal, can't special?
I'm going first, bitch. You didn't win the coin. You didn't win the flip.
No, yeah. If Rongo is made on you and you don't have 6 dangers in your hand, you lost the game. Scoop. I promise. Against Raps. Like,
I like the 6 dangers is the only answer to Rongo. Otherwise, you lose.
what else is putting yourself on the board? Like, it's 6 dangers. They might not kill you. Might. They still probably will, but they might not. Access code's a good card.
Alrighty. Let's talk about the baby.
So to talk
Drytron.
about.
There's nothing.
Bro,
Shit is
really
cracked.
There's really
deck,
nothing.
They're like,
I just
the
gotta tell you.
PCG is
Yeah.
good.
That's what I said. I was like, I literally booted up this game, right? I literally opened up Master Duel. I saw the ban list and I was like, wait, Ben 10's at 3 and Eva is untouched. These guys are insane. And I spent all of my gems on that pack. Like the first, like I haven't made a single alt account. I haven't made anything else. I've wailed for whatever other deck I wanted, but this deck I bought free. Nothing else. I didn't spend any money on anything. I probably spent like at most like $10 on some of the extra deck cards. Like that's about it. Like other than that, like I didn't do anything for this deck. And Drytron, it's just good, bro. Like it's just the best
A
deck.
Maxi on
There's
Orange Light that
no
you already had in your hand.
way people are beating this deck when it's going first. And if you're going second and you're playing good going second cards as well too, and you see them, like you're breaking any board. You're playing through so many things. Like it's just so it's like, don't get me wrong, like its biggest flaw I would say is just the fact that it has to rely on a bad mechanic, which is ritual summoning. Other than that, like
Draconids is cracked.
you feel me? Other than that, it's just
Draconids is okay.
there's so
Bro,
much there's
Draconids
just
crackle
so much
board?
to say about everything that this deck can
Herald
do.
is just the best card.
It feels like some of the best, like it feels like some of the best gas. It feels like some of the best engine. Like the combos, they just have a high ceiling, and like the ceiling at the end of the day always ends the same, whether it be an ultimateness, a perfection, or whether it be me Natashaing your whole board. Like it's always something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Natasha's broken as fuck.
Yeah, you just end up winning. Like you can honestly, like if you flip the coin and you land on heads, you're most likely gonna win that game. Like that's just how good the deck is.
Union Carrier is legal too. If you
Union
wanted to
Carrier
go
is legal
that
too
route.
if you're going that route. Yeah, absolutely. No, 100%. A lot of decks are playing Union Carrier to, you know, either fix their combo or have Buster Drake on their Perfection or Ultimateness at the end. Like,
B
it's just
Buster
crack.
Drake. That's another FTK.
Oh, people are
V
equipping-
Buster Drake is an
Union
FTK, bro.
Carrier equip B Buster Drake. That's
Yes.
not fair, but
That's an FTK,
it
bro.
just makes it is an FTK because you're not dropletting. It's wraps. You
Exactly.
lost.
Yeah.
You can make Zeus too, like
You
cracked.
can create Zeus with this deck. Like it honestly plays through so many hand traps because you can choose which way you want to go to be able to bait out whichever hand trap. Like you can mind game your opponent by summoning 2 Drytrons instead, and then all of a sudden pitching a fucking Ben 10 out of nowhere. You know, like there's so many different ways that you can outplay your opponent with this deck as well too. It's crazy.
If this game could gamma into Verte Red Eyes Fusion, it did disband the game.
I know,
Red Eyes Fusion is legal. This whole list would be different.
Honestly, honestly, Ben 10, like I honestly think Drytron right now, I think it's the Meta Knight of Master Duel at the moment. Like,
100%.
sure. Like this in Eldritch, they just have so much that they do.
But Diviner is like
Because-
and out to like every floodgate minus skill drain.
Yeah, literally. It just has to worry about skill drain. That's like the only thing. And even then, like you play 1 or 2 outs in your main deck, and it's like sure.
But then you play Herald of Purple Light, so whenever they flip that shit.
Oh, I've been seeing some people with that card, with those cards in their builds. That's just ass. But
telling you.
that's just not good. But yeah,
I can't put this deck as the best deck because Rongo's a card. Like I just can't.
we're just not arguing that, bro.
I really
Bro,
can't.
ultimateness, fucking 30 negates is Rongo.
I really can't put that deck as best deck. Like I really just can't.
You're crazy.
I can't. Like
No, there's no way.
Oh, Drytron can go first, second, and if it goes to a turn 3, it has follow up like a motherfucker.
also people. I
Promise me you won't kill me. Drytron could go third.
also think I'm like a really. I think I'm really biased because looking at a lot of the Master Duel tournaments, like this deck's not really like seen very much because a lot of the people in Master Duel tournaments are like really heavy on hand traps and they're really heavy on.
They're trying to
like,
get heavy.
Maining Joel recently has kind of become the wave there, so
Yeah.
it's like it's becoming harder for me to call it like the best deck, and like people aren't really comfortable taking that deck into a Master Duel tournament. Also because of like best of 1, because sometimes you might just like. Well, actually, I think the Master Duel tournaments are switching to best of 3, but I think it's like if there was side decking it, that deck would drop so hard, but. Also, it's just sometimes in a best of 1 format. Don't get me wrong, that deck is probably the fastest deck to speedrun your way to Plat 1, no question.
Oh, for sure.
So that if that's your goal, like by all means. Also, it's cheap. But as far as best deck goes, I think there's some games you're gonna brick. I think there's some games where you're just like gonna be playing through stuff that you can't play through, and Rongo's the best card in the game. Thanks for listening, that dog.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like this is the correct list. In all honesty, like the way that it's ordered, like this is just right now. I think if we missed anything, like maybe it's like True Draco or something, but even then, like True Draco is just good because it's a common deck that you can play at any time. I would probably
cringe and
it's cringe. Like I would probably put it at like low A. Like I don't think it's like.
I think
better
we
than
did
the
miss
other
some
builds.
decks. But if we missed them, it's not because we think they're bad. It's probably more representation. We
Yeah,
have Dragon
that's
Maid
true.
up here.
Dragon Maid
That's
higher than
probably,
Dragon Link
like-
for sure.
That's probably
All
A
right.
tier.
You're tripping.
I think you're tripping. I feel like
I-
the 7 Dragon decks are
Kills.
so bad.
If we miss a deck, it's definitely not an S tier deck. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
yeah,
for
probably just
sure.
Let's say it that way.
representation.
No.
The S tier up here is perfect. Like that's just what it is.
I
Yeah,
think PK's got to be way
agreed.
higher. I think at the very least, it
Ah.
better be to the right of that Nerval right there, and it better be a picture of Rongo instead.
There's no.
I'm not gonna cap. I've never got Rongoed by a PK player. I've gotten
put
Rongoed
PK
by a
I can
6-man player.
I can comfortably put PK here. That's as
fine.
comfortable as I can put it.
That's what I wanted.
But now
No.
we're like bump. Yeah, but it is what it is. I'll show you guys the Adamant wave.
Hey, just so y'all know, don't max C a 6M.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, don't max you versus Big Sam. Hey guys,
Yeah,
hey,
well, they just infinitely loop you. So
I want to say thanks for the video. I want to say thanks to the homies. Thanks to Eder, Vonnie, and Nick for hopping on. Get out the video
Yeah.
and everybody watching. Like
Yeah,
I said,
I'll breaks, baby.
if
Shout
you-
out APM Eagle Squad.
Shout out
That'll
to
break,
you.
baby.
If you like my channel, like it. If you like the video, subscribe to it, guys. I'll be coming out with more videos, more deck profiles, more stuff. Follow me. Make sure you check out my Twitch at twitch.tv/ego_Dre.
Don't follow him.
And
You wear super earrings.
yeah, peace out, y'all. Later.